It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It's great to have you with us here. Patrick Johnson Show on this Wednesday, hump day. It's all downhill from here. It's a tradition unlike any other when we talk with the head football coach for ECU after the spring game, and it starts a new tradition with Blake Harrell. We always talk to you during the – you're leaving me hanging, Coach.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were like shaking your fist like you're ready to go out.
Blake Harrell. We would always talk to you on the phone. It seemed like because you were recruiting during after spring ball at some point, talking about the defense. But now we get to talk about everything.
Yeah,
with the head coach of the Pirates. How was the first spring ball as the head coach?
Spring ball is awesome. It's just the young men in our program and the people in our building, our coaches, our staff, and everybody in on campus make that spring ball experience really, really good. Just I thought every single day you get 15 practices, and you got to do that within a 30-day period. We started March 25th and went to April 26th, and I thought every single day our kids came out and attacked it. In the past, we've always went 4 days a week, only 4 weeks. We stretched it out a little bit longer this time, went 3 days a week for five weeks, just so we had more time in between to develop in the weight room, teach in the classroom, and let their bodies recover in between practices. And just have more time there, too. And I thought it was really good. And I would go back and do it the exact same schedule. Yeah. You know, we kept it practicing through the transfer portal window, which I thought was a bonus for us and for our program. And I just thought we developed players, schemes, and team and our culture throughout the whole spring ball, and just really pleased with how it went.
Early on, you kind of talked about guys needing to step up, was that a message that you were sending through the media, or just re-emphasizing through the media?
Both. I mean, I think we walked in on the team room January 12th, had our first team meeting for the semester, and there was no Raji Harris, Dustin Hall, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Morris in there. And so now you're looking around the room like, who's going to lead? Who's going to be the vocal guys in here? Who's going to set the tempo? And who's going to make sure that they're pushing this program and their teammates to get better every single day? And throughout the semester, I saw guys doing that, whether that was Caton Hauser, whether that was Carson Jones, whether that was J.D. Lampley or Tegan Wilk or Jamarly Riddle. Young, old guys, I see us, every day, somebody stepping up and being a big part of that. And it's not just one guy doing it. It's a group effort, and just really pleased where that's going. And I still think we have a long ways to go. As I told our guys, January, February, weight training was quarter one. Yeah. Spring ball is quarter two. Summer training is quarter three. Preseason camp is quarter four. So we're only halfway through our off season. Yeah. So we got to continue to get better every single day, and get on this pirate ship, and let's ride it all the way to the season, but let's make sure we're getting better every single day.
Tegan Wilk comes back. It's almost like, I guess, he wasn't gone, or how different is that for him?
It's really good to have him back. I think sometime when your atmosphere changed, your vision and your perspective also changes. Him and Xavier McGyver are two guys that were here. They had a change of scenery, and they're back. And I think their perspective has really changed, and they're very appreciative to be back in Pirate Nation and be a Pirate again.
With that different perspective, as you say, some appreciation, but is there some things you think they can bring, having just kind of different experiences for them?
Absolutely. And I think the biggest is that perspective. Yeah. And the grass is not always greener on the other side, so to speak. and they've seen it firsthand, and they're back. And they understand what winning football games looks like. They know what it's like to play in Dowdy Ficklen Stadium. They know the expectations of Pirate Nation, and they can help lead the program, lead the team, and help portray that to the rest of their teammates.
Blake Harrell is joining us here, head coach of the Pirates. We've got the Blake Harrell football camps that'll be going on. You can sign up now. They start in June and run throughout that month. You can go to Blake Harrell Football Camps LLC.com. to sign up. These are actually pretty moderately priced given today's economy. So that's pretty good stuff, actually.
Yeah, a couple of things. You know, the whole putting the football camps and LLC together, that's a journey. That's a journey. And trying to get an EIN number and all that. But, you know, thankfully, Ann Hoggard kind of helped me through that process.
Ann's the best.
Ann is awesome. Her and Steve Shankweiler kind of head up our football camps, along with several other people to help to guide it. But we have a junior pirate camp. I believe it's June 16th through the 18th. If I got my dates right. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some of our players will be involved, helping out with that. Kate and Hauser, some of the different players there. So those junior pirates get a chance to be around our coaching staff, but also around our players, be in our facility, be on our practice field, be in Dowdy-Ficklin, run out of the tunnel, as well as get some good fundamentals. Then our junior pirate days, or our prospect camps, as you mentioned, the main goals of those are for recruiting and trying to identify prospects, get prospects on our campus that could be future Pirates, and you know, also give them a little bit of skill development at the same time. And then we have our big Beast of the East.
I was going to say Beast of the East tournament coming up.
We've already got 40 teams signed up.
Oh, really? Wow.
We talked about splitting into 2 different days, and just the calendar didn't work out with graduations and some different things being used on campus. So we had to keep it in one day. But what a great opportunity to get almost 1,000 kids.
Is that full, or are you close to?
We're close.
Okay.
We've got over 40 teams who say they want to come.
Right.
Now we just got to get the deposit to lock them in.
Right.
But that shouldn't be an issue of getting that all figured out and having 40 teams, and that'll be 1,000 young men and 1,000 kids, high school prospects on our campus that are there with their team competing and trying to be the final team in that championship in Dowdy-Ficklin on that Saturday evening.
That'll be cool, won't it? That's always a fun.
It's always a fun day, and just always that thing's been going on for long before I got here, and it'll be going on long after I leave, and just a really good event.
Do you see like a 7-on-7 thing becoming sanctioned or competitive? I mean, do you see that becoming kind of we're seeing girls flag football now, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, my daughter wants to play. My middle daughter, who's the toughest of the 3, she wants to play flag football this spring,
awesome.
and I'm pretty excited about that for her. She's probably more of a lineman than a skilled person, so but she's tough and she's excited about that. But to your point, I think anytime we can get a football on and some young individuals' hands, whether it's a female, male, 7-on-7, flag football. I think it's good for kids to get out and explore different options, explore different games, and just move around. I think it's good for the game of football in general. So I'm all about it, and all about 7-on-7s. I don't at the same time, I don't think that's real football, and it's not putting the pads on. It's a different portion, but it does help.
Well, I just mean as like a supplemental thing, or maybe something that would be done in the spring. I know there's a lot of guys in football that are in track and field.
Yeah, there's a bunch of 7-on-7 tournaments going on that high schools participate in, travel teams participate in, whether it's all across the country. Maybe not as popular in our areas. It may be some of the bigger cities, Charlotte, and those places, but certainly I see that growing.
Blake Harrell with us here. There's some guys on campus, continue to be on campus, that are on visits out of the portal. I know you want to get some corner help or some secondary help out of those visits. You already have done a little bit of that, according to reports. So how long does that process go on for?
Yeah, so the transfer portal closed last Friday, so nobody can officially go in now. So that's sleeping a little better this week than we did last week. But you can recruit guys that are currently in the portal. So if a young man's entered his name in the portal, you can currently recruit that prospect. You can bring him on campus for a visit and show him what we have to offer. And we're certainly always going to look to add to our roster. The most important part of our time, our effort is this fall. I told our coaches the most important fall is this fall. We all obviously look for 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and recruiting high school prospects. But we want to make sure we win games this fall. And anybody we can add to our roster that may help us win a game this fall, we're going to add to our roster.
When you are going through that, is that a case too? And I know it's case by case, but are these players maybe you and the staff have recruited previously and they're in, so you have a little bit of familiarity? Right. Or are you going on word of mouth from friends in the business or guys that maybe are on the roster that played with these guys?
Yeah, like you said, it varies case by case. Anytime you do have a previous relationship with a young man, I think it does help because sometimes the portal case is a little bit of speed dating, and in speed dating sometimes you can end up with a good date and sometimes not so much. Not that I've ever been a part of that, Patrick.
Right, yeah.
But
so you've heard.
yeah, so I've heard. But it's very much like that. You're trying to find out as much about the individual as quickly as possible. They're trying to find out as much about you as quickly as possible and trying to see if it's a good marriage or not. And then, I would like to add some older guys
Sure.
to our roster. Maybe a guy that's in his last year of eligibility that could bring a little experience. Some guys that have played. But at the same time, everybody in the country is looking for those same individuals as well. So we'll continue to search and look and bring in guys on campus. We've already had a couple young men in Greenville. We expect a couple young men today and the next coming days to be here that could possibly help us win games this fall.
When we talked about the secondary, you're looking to beef up things there. What are some other areas? In an ideal world, you'd like to maybe get another player or two?
If an ideal world, if I had enough scholarships, we're probably looking at several areas. Offensively, maybe a backup quarterback that can come in, a guy that's played, has experience. I think we do have some viable options. Not that they, just haven't taken college snaps. We maybe like to find a guy that's taking a college snap. Maybe another old lineman. I think, offensively, defensively, mostly in the secondary.
Right.
Whether it's nickel, whether it's a corner, whether it's a safety. You always want to make sure you have plenty of bodies at those areas as well because your special teams guys come from that. That's a big guy. A lot of those numbers come from secondary guys who can run, cover, hit, tackle.
Yeah.
Then I think in the kicking game, we just got to make sure we're shored up there, whether it's with another punter or holder, kicker, kick returner, punt returner. So several, in the Santa dream list, wish list, it's about 10 bodies. In the real world scholarships, and I'm not sure we have that many, but we got to make it work and see if we can create, be creative in how we can get more guys added to our roster that can still help us win games.
Right.
But at the same time, you do have limitations, and the house settlement's going through right now, so who knows where that's going.
The house coupled with Team Boneyard, so there's that NIL,
Correct.
Part of it. That factors bigly into this too.
The Boneyard, the collective, has been so key to our roster. Look, we did not lose a starter in the transfer portal this past portal. We lost some walk-on guys who were looking for opportunities possibly to go play some other places.
And you get that.
We get that. We lost a third-team corner who's a scholarship kid. We lost a backup quarterback who may just looking to take the next step and next journey in his life.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about that in a second. Yeah.
And he may just go be a dad, but I think the biggest thing the biggest reason we kept our roster in place was because of Team Boneyard.
Yeah.
It was because of possibly the revenue share, the house settlement going through, and there's a lot of different aspects of the house settlement that's going through the court system right now. And Claudia Wilkins hopefully has hopefully she comes out today and has a decision made, but I think we could be looking at another 10 days on that.
Yeah.
But that is, wrapped up in that is the revenue share and the roster limit that she's not happy with, the 105 that I don't think may not pass for another year. So we're kind of making preparations of what you think might happen with all that. But at the same time, again, Team Boneyard, the Pirate and Gold Society, those have been huge reasons why we're keeping our roster together.
I want to ask you about Jake Garcia. You mentioned backup quarterback and all that, but with all of this, with roster limits and rev share and a lot of these things, it also seems like depending on how this bears out, you could have. I mean, it's not like I know a lot of work's been done, legwork's been done to be as seamless as possible, but it's not like a lot of this is just going to happen overnight in a way. I mean, there's a lot of mechanisms that still have to be put in place, a lot of reaction to whatever the ruling is. And I think from some sectors, I'm not saying here, and maybe so, who knows, but I think depending on what's ruled, there could be more legal challenges to this whole thing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
We should have been lawyers.
Yeah, we should have been lawyers. And I think, there's some hesitation from MCAA, from certain areas, and it's all coming down to lawsuits. Until we have antitrust where there's no lawsuits and everything doesn't get challenged and everything doesn't go to a court, it'll always be a mess,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of different ways to solve it and a lot of different things I think we should do. But, nobody's listening to me, but that's okay.
Well, they might now.
Yeah.
They might now
We'll
that
see.
you're the head man here. So
I do think, at some point we do have to get back to making the student part of the student athlete first.
Sure.
I love that the student athlete is benefiting from rev share and from some financial resources, but I don't want that to ever be the main thing of college athletics.
Right.
I think we still need to make it a student. I think there needs to be contracts for athletes, just like coaches have. I think if you break your contract, there should be buyouts. I think there shouldn't be two portal windows. We shouldn't have to negotiate contracts twice a year in football. Basketball only has one contract or one portal window. Why can't football go to that?
Right.
Why can't we have one portal window? Why can't we be more of an NFL model? Free agencies in the spring. We do OTAs in May and June. We have a preseason game in August. Then we go play the season in the fall. And we quit. Let's get away from making it a fall sport. Let's make it more of a end of January. It's a full year long sport. Make it one portal window. There's probably people out there who would disagree with that. Say,
right.
No, let's keep it all in the fall. Keep it all in one semester. But I think, college football has become such a revenue money maker for not only athletics but school. Why don't we just use it for what it's worth?
Yeah.
And make it entertaining, and let's make it a year long, and let's maximize that.
What you're talking about makes too much sense, number one. But second of all, I want to seize on something you said there, a couple things you said there. Free agent period, that would make a lot of sense.
Which is called the portal window right now.
Right,
yes.
called the portal window. Let's call it a free agent period for this exercise. And when you talk about deals, and I've heard Jay Billis talk about that, other people talk about or more than a year. I mean, would you entertain the idea of like a multi-year kind of deal with an option?
I think 2 years would be awesome.
Yeah.
If you could say, hey, you could sit in a young man's home, whether it's any student athlete's home, and tell their parents, hey, for 2 years we're going to take care of this young man, and this is going to be his home for 2 years. I think that would help their progress toward degree, help them graduate, help them, because so many guys, they go somewhere, they're not happy after the first year. Well, who is happy being away from home the first time?
Right, yeah.
It's just so much learning curve there.
Well, and this is not a sport. You're not going to come in unless you were somebody extraordinary that's going to come in and you're starting day one.
Very few freshmen play.
Right.
And I just told a freshman the other day, he said, you're probably not going to play as a freshman or as a redshirt freshman. If you do, either one of two things.
Good for us.
Really, really, really good.
Right.
Or really bad for us.
Right.
It means
Well,
we haven't done a great job in that area recruiting. But that's just kind of like where I think we got to get back to. I'm not sure we ever will, but I would love to see it get back to that.
We have Blake Harrell, football coaches. Pilk, where are we in this juncture right now? Tell you what, why don't we hit a break? We'll come back, pick things up with Coach Harrell. He's with us here today on the Patrick Johnson Show, so stay with us.
We have you covered with all the ECU news and beyond that you need for the drive home. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome in. We got Blake Harrell with us here as we continue on, coach in the studio out of spring ball. The spring game itself, really a chance for those guys to play, to develop and get a few more snaps, get a little more experience. Starters played, I guess, a couple series.
Right.
And when you look at where spring ball, I mean, you had a game.
Yeah.
Some other places didn't. I mean, so
right.
Where is that aspect heading in college
and I
football?
think so many people were saying, oh, we're not going to use the spring game because of the portal and those things. Our spring game was after the portal window closed.
Was that part of, too, of spreading it out?
That was part of spreading it out. That was part of –
which I like, by the way. I think that was –
I thought it was really good timing.
Yeah.
It paired up with a baseball weekend, really good weather, and, just the buzz and the energy around the spring game itself, and with the pigskin pig out and all that was really good. I thought it was, that's the atmosphere you want to create and the atmosphere you want to have in Dowdy Fickle and on campus and those things. But, spring games for years has always been, hey, let's just get through the game. Let's don't get anybody injured, and let's get on to the next phase of training.
Did you get it out healthy? By the way?
We got out healthy,
okay.
and that's the most
good
important
part.
thing.
Yeah.
And like you said, you get your starters a few series, but really by practice 15, you already know what those guys can do, and then you put the bulk of the game, on your second, third, and team guys that kind of get a lot of extra snaps there. And you get to see them make a few plays, and their fans get to see them make a few plays as well. And you keep it pretty basic, just for any other purposes that might get out there. But, I thought all in all, it was a pretty good deal.
Well, you also, in that statement you made before the break, talked about if you adjust the calendar, rightfully so.
Right.
That you might now incorporate it as a preseason game or you'd like to see that. Let me choose my words.
It's just a thought. Like I think.
No, it's a concept.
Yeah.
So I guess, is that something you think fellow coaches would probably get a little more on board with? Because again, there's no ramifications for the portal, and again, you got to adjust a lot of things. But it also seems like too, in some respects, maybe the spring game has sort of outlived its usefulness. It
has. There's so many things going back to that, Patrick, that I sat back in January with the AFCA head coaches, and there's all the head coaches from every Division I programs in there, and they all have a platform to speak. And obviously the more experienced, older guys, the SEC, the Sweeneys of the world are speaking up, and Kirby Smarts of the world. But I think maybe spring ball is kind of I think the game has changed a little bit. Now, so many of those guys. Their argument was they want their roster and know who their quarterback's going to be in January. Well, maybe if you're at the blue blood, so to speak, the Georgia, you do. But hey, some lower program may get their quarterback stolen in May. So how do they really know what they're doing in spring ball?
Yeah.
But I think there's different arguments to it too. It's like, well, the NFL doesn't need all that time to develop and to.
Well, this isn't the NFL.
Yeah, so there's different arguments to it,
right?
And I'm not saying that my viewpoint is right or wrong.
Well, it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, it's just different ways. And I certainly think that 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old is still developing, is still growing, and their body's still changing. So we do need a off-season program, but maybe not to the extent of having a true all-out spring practice. I think more OTA style, maybe put some pads on, a helmet on, but I don't know that we need a limitation there.
Yeah. With, in a dream world revised calendar, or one that maybe syncs up a little better, how does that couple with recruiting, which right now has the December signing day?
Right. Well,
and that just seems to fall. So let's go back. You got recruiting.
Yeah.
You've just taken over the program. You're getting ready for a bowl game. You got about 10 things going on.
Well, back in December?
Yeah. Which seems like it was eons ago, I'm sure.
Yeah. I thought November, when you're the interim head coach and you're going through the season, all you're focused on really was that day and winning that game the Saturday. Because really, at the end of the day, that was all that mattered for us at the time.
Right.
Because if we didn't win the game on Saturday, I wouldn't be here. So that was our main focus, and our main draw. And that was easy because that's all we were thinking about. Come this November, that will be our main focus, but I'll also be making preparations for the following calendar year, for transfers, for retaining players.
But should that date be adjusted, in your opinion? I mean, where would that fall into it, maybe a revised?
Well, I said this when we were talking about this back in January at the AFCA convention with the head coaches is, if we would move the transfer portal out of December and January and push it back a couple months and only have one transfer portal, you wouldn't have the tampering going on in November and October. Your players are getting tampered with because somebody else is already thinking about the following year. And they're already making preparations for that. So they're calling your kids, hitting your kids up, and your players and your young men to get them in the portal. Well, now I'm already thinking as a player, instead of thinking about finishing game 10, 11, 12, I'm already thinking about, well, how much money can I make if I do go in the transfer portal? Is that the right move for me? If you could push that further out of the calendar. The issue, too, is like we're trying to match a football playing season up with an academic calendar and a recruiting calendar. And it's just, I don't know, that doesn't need to be blown up and kind of pushed away. And I think Coach Clausen said this a couple years ago or a year ago, said that at some point we just need to step back, let everything stay in place for a couple years, then try to fix it. We try to fix it every other month.
You're trying to fix the plane while it's flying.
Yeah, exactly, and that's hard to do.
Yeah. Blake Harrell is with us here today. A couple more things. Jake Garcia, you mentioned backup quarterback. That was a life decision as much as anything.
I think for each individual in our program, obviously our team, East Carolina, and our football program comes first, but we also care about the young men in our program and love them very much. And for Jake, he has a tough decision to make, and he graduates, next week with his degree from East Carolina,
which is great,
which is awesome. Always be a Pirate for that. And Jake has a 14-month-old at home with his fiance there in Miami, and I think it's just weighing on him a little bit. He's missed our first steps, and being a dad and his next step of life, he's got to figure out what's right for him, and it's bigger than football. I think Coach Baker said that, and we're with Jake every bit of the way here. We're supportive of him, we care about him, we love him. and so he's going to explore some different things and find out what the right move for him is. I just saw him and his mom. His mom had a birthday the other day. They were at Nino's celebrating, and saw Dad over there and just gave him all hugs and told him cared about him. If there's anything we can do for him.
So he could very much wind up playing somewhere. He could wind up, as you say, in his next step in life.
Yeah, I think his future father-in-law's already got some a job lined up for him there if he wants it.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody was to make it worth his while, then I think he would go throw the ball around a little bit too.
Yeah. Caton Hauser, how did you feel like he finished the spring?
We were very careful with Caton. I think with Caton, J.D. Lampley, Raheem Craig, all three, if we would have played a true game last week, would have been full go, 100% in there. But with all three of those guys, we were very cautious. It was a little easier to be cautious with Caton because the quarterback doesn't get hit in practice.
Right.
So we just made sure everybody stayed away from him and let him throw it around a little bit. With J.D. and Raheem, we just kept those guys out of contact. But all three of those guys just, are older guys now, and just the way they're progressing, the way that Caton's back and healthy and looking better than ever, and just understanding the game. I just see him walking around with a confidence and a swagger. That's pretty cool to see.
When you look ahead to the first game, NC State coming up, obviously you just played them. Now they're going to have a different roster. You're going to have a different roster. Teams will be a lot different at that point. But just going back to that bowl game, I mean, the move that Rajay put on, which is the move that injured his knee a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like the stuff movies are made of.
That's right. And just, what a great story. What a awesome young man. Couldn't happen to a better person. Raji popped out of there, and I think, okay, we're getting ready to make this a fourth and manageable play. And then he picks up the first down. I think, okay, we're going to get out to midfield, and he makes the last guy miss. And I'm like, holy smokes, he's going to take this all the way. And then I thought, oh no, he's going to leave too much time on the clock, and they're going to have too much time to drive down the field. But just a historic run, and couldn't happen to a better person. So excited about him and what that meant for that game, this program, our university, our fans. And then, like you said, come August 28th, they'll have a new offense coordinator, new defense coordinator. Our rosters will look very different.
I think, Blake, it gives our program, though, a lot of momentum.
It does. And any big win, not just a big win over NC State, but any big win coming out of a bowl game gives you momentum. And that one certainly did. And, have the utmost respect for Coach Dorn and what he's done up there, and just what he's done with that place. And he's been there for over almost a dozen years or so, and just huge respect for him. But any big win for us and going in for our program and going in the offseason is huge, especially what we've experienced over the last couple of years. And just gives us excitement going into this fall.
Have a handful of guys that got camp invites, but then having Siobhan Revel go, of all places, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
are you a Cowboys fan too?
No, but I do recognize. I mean, that's a brand.
Well,
that's
a brand.
The brand.
And if you have, how many owners can you name in the NFL? I mean, everybody out there can name Jerry Jones.
Right, exactly.
And to have Jerry Jones call you on the phone in front of your family, and we showed that video to our players Saturday morning.
Right.
Just a phone call from Jerry Jones, his reaction with his family, and those that are close to him at his house there. And just, I got a little choked up. I said that what Siobhan's been through, just the injury, the way he's his career path, the way he could have left here, and his loyalty to East Carolina and being a Pirate. And now finally reaching his dream and his aspiration, his goal is pretty special. And that's my goal and my aspiration dream for every young man in our program, every young man on our team, is for them one day to reach their dream, whether it be the NFL, whatever it may be, that we can help get them there and help them along the way to be successful.
Anything you want Pirate Nation to know, kind of just going into the next few months ahead of the season starting? Obviously, you want folks to buy tickets. You got your football camps, which people can send their children to.
Yeah, there's so much. And we talk about let's ride. And we talk about we're on a pirate ship together. And we're going to ride this pirate ship together. And for the ride for us is playing with relentless effort, intensity, discipline, execution. But at the end of the day, it's all about us being on this ship together and taking this ship to being successful next fall. And whether that's winning game one or winning the conference or whatever it may be, winning every home game in Dowdy-Ficklin, we're all going to be in it together. And revenue sharing is tied up so much more than just revenue sharing for the players. It's about season tickets. It's about winning a big bowl game. Was not just about Raji Harris's run or a big fourth down stop early in the game or Caton Hauser's score. It was about that energy from those fans and what those fans meant to our players, and that carried into that game and what that's going to mean next fall. And that's why all of us are on that ship together. We're all going to ride it, and we're all going to be successful together, and we're going to look to do that next fall, and especially August 28th up in Raleigh.
Looking forward to it, Artie. Good to see you, man.
All right, I won't leave you hanging this time.
Don't leave me hanging this time. Blake Harrell, great to have him with us here. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back and have more here on the PJ Show on this Wednesday here on 94.3 The Game, online 94.3thegame.com, and, of course, on the IBX Media app.
Have you noticed he's in his own little happy hour? We're back to the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
This is the happy hour program.
Here's the P-Man.
So, intern Chris, who you've heard us reference many times, is on with us. Is this the first time on the show?
No, I've done a couple segments.
But the first time on the show with me?
Yes, sir.
I like this, sir. See, Pilkington, you need to take some lessons from this young man. Chris is a sophomore at ECU. Right?
Yes, sir.
Where are you from?
Salisbury, North Carolina.
So that's right. You've told me this before. I don't remember these details when it comes to the really anybody, but certainly not the interns. Wouldn't you agree with that, Pilk?
Yeah, you don't really care what other people's deal is.
I can't. Now, you asked me how my day was, and Pilk immediately snapped at you. Said, "Don't talk to the host." And you can talk to me. I'm here. I'm accessible to the interns, Pilk. I don't know where you got this from. By the way, this is a very skewed situation.
I got this from on air when you said, don't let the interns talk to me.
Well, and I mean that. But this is a very skewed situation because Pilkington, usually it's the host that's the diva. And the producer, kind of acquiesces. This is totally a 180 relationship. Pilkington is the diva, and I have to rearrange my whole life to accommodate his travel to such Tiffany places as Colorado or the Caribbean or wherever he's going on a given week.
Hey, this week I'm going to the Working Man's Beach. I will be joining you. I have a wedding down there.
I will not be at the Working Man's Beach this weekend.
Problem.
How do you feel about that? I had to get out of there because I knew you were coming and everything was going to be booked. You couldn't get a restaurant reservation down there this weekend because you're down there with your entourage. He's very fancy. So I have to rearrange my whole schedule, my whole life. So Philip the Ref Pilkington can travel to far-off, distant places and go to major sporting events. And
distant places? I'm going to where you are 80% of the time.
For once, you're actually rubbing elbows with the working man.
Yeah.
For once. Well, you do at NASCAR events. But other than that.
Hey, I'm going to the great state of Mecklenburg next weekend, so we all know that ain't rubbing elbows with nobody fancy.
No, those people have a high opinion of themselves.
They think they're fancy.
What do the people in Salisbury think of Charlotte?
Honestly, I don't know. I didn't go to school in Salisbury, so I didn't really know a lot of people.
How are you from Salisbury then? Is that where you're born?
I lived in Salisbury. I went to school in Stanley County.
Well, what do the people in Stanley, the Snap, the newspaper, the Snap, you didn't know I knew that, did you?
No.
What do the people in Stanley County think of Charlotte?
They probably don't like it. They're all like backwoods country people.
Wow. See, Pilkington claims he's like a country. No, right? He's city.
I'd say Hickory's like kind of country.
Kind of country?
I'm from Harrisburg.
Harrisburg.
I was going to say, are you from Hickory, Pilk?
No.
Because if so, that puts a whole new spin on you.
No, I'm from Harrisburg. I just went to Hickory Ridge.
I'll tell you who
near
is.
Hickory.
I'll tell you who is salt of the earth, other than me, Chris. I'll tell you who is salt of the earth. Blake Harrell. How about that guy?
That was awesome.
Great dude. And Pilk came in here. Just a dude, right?
Oh, yeah, and I've always told people that, and Jana was asking, she's like, oh, the football coach is coming in. And I was like, he is not what you think of when you think of a typical coach. If you looked up dad who coaches his kid's Little League team, Blake Harrell would probably pop up in the dictionary. He seems more like that than a coach. And I mean that in a complimentive way. I've asked so many players who played for him, including Joe Sampson, if you could have a beer with one coach, who would it be? And first name out of their mouth, Blake Harrell.
Absolutely. All right, we've got some review of the media coming up. Some audio review of the media from big stories out of the weekend. But first, Philip the Ref Pilkington with a 94.3 The Game Sports Update and Pirate Report. Do you have to go in there and help him with this? No? Can you sit here?
Yes.
Do you want to stay here the whole time?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll determine that in the break. But right now, here's Pilk.
Thank you, P-Man. Starting in Pirate Athletics, the baseball team got a victory last night at Elon, 4-2. They will try and build on that this weekend when they travel out to Wichita to stake on the Shockers. The softball team is off this midweek before they host North Texas at home to wrap it up. The Carolina Hurricanes wrapped up the first round of the Eastern Conference Stanley Cup playoffs with a 5-4 win in overtime against the New Jersey Devils. Canes fell behind early, were able to rally back, force overtime. Then Sebastian Aho finished off his hat trick of the night. It was his second goal of the night. It was his third of the playoffs, and a power play goal that was assisted by Shane Gostisbehere and Seth Jarvis after the Canes took a double minor via a high sticking. Sticking with the NHL tonight, the Capitals, who, if they win, will get the Hurricanes, will try and close off the Montreal Canadiens in Game 5. That game's at 7 o'clock. Then it's the Battle of the Sunshine State. Panthers looking to close out the Lightning. That game will be played in Tampa, and it's 2-2 out in the Western Conference between the Jets and the Blues. Game 5 is north of the border in Winnipeg. Pair of NBA games tonight, both Western Conference. Rockets host the 7-seeded Warriors. Warriors trying to close that series out in Game 5, and also at home trying to fin off elimination is LeBron and the Lakers as they host the T-Wolves. That'll do it for 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update and Pirate Report. We're going to take our final timeout here on the Patrick Johnson Show. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
And now, the stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
All right, wrapping it up. Patrick Johnson, Philip the Rep Pilkington, intern Chris from Salisbury, where he went to school in Stanley County, sophomore at ECU, baseball, college baseball fan, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You know a lot about it?
Yes, sir.
Really?
He knows MLB too. Him and William are up there. Those are our baseball.
There's
guys.
our baseball minds?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's good. We're churning out talent here. Also, we won't hold this against Chris too much. He's a UNC fan. Why?
Parents went to UNC, just grew up around Chapel Hill. It's kind of like my second home growing up. So.
I got you. Well, nobody's perfect. What do you think of this Belichick thing and his teenage girlfriend? Well, she's not a teenager, but...
I think it's bad publicity. I mean, you're a grown man and you're letting your 24-year-old girlfriend
kind of lead him around.
Life.
Yeah. I mean, if he had a 24-year-old girlfriend, all right, so what? But apparently, Pilk, and I don't know if I communicated this very well at the end of the show yesterday, but Belichick had, she walked out or something and caused like a 30-minute delay or something in the production of the interview.
Yeah. So I've been told. I mean, like Chris said, it's just bad publicity. Like, it's fine if you have it, but just why does this have to become an ordeal? Who cares who he's dating? Why do we have to do stories on it?
Well, I think there's the age gap. And it's a considerable age gap. It's 50 years. Like, he's old enough to be her granddad.
Yeah.
So that's a considerable age gap. Plus, the whole interview thing was weird. So earlier today, Pilk, do we have enough time to get both those cuts in?
The PJ or the
Bob Lee cuts?
Yeah, I think so.
And do we have enough time to get the other
Probably not
cut?
all three of those. So I say we do one of the Bob Lee, and then we do the...
Okay, what are the two Bob Lee... So earlier today, columnist and humorist Bob Lee from Bob Lee Says, Kinston native, was on the Patrick Johnson show. No, he was actually on the...
Talk of the Town.
Talk of the Town, yeah. Yeah. So they told what is the shorter cut?
The shorter one was just kind of how Clay Travis and all those guys are having fun with this and how it's curating radio humor.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
Okay, the longer one is just kind of the overall drama, the whole thing.
Well, let's play that real quick.
He's never won without Brady.
I don't know if it'll say this in there, but now his good line was, now there's a Jordan. When you say Jordan and Chapel Hill, they're not talking about MJ. So anyway, let's play that longer cut here from earlier this morning. Talk of the Town. Hit it.
Well, they're panicking down there. I mean, they really thought this is finally happening.
We're not panicking.
No, not you. I mean, Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
So they're lashing out. That group of crazies, the inside Carolina crazies down there, bored monkeys are us, is going nuts right now because their whole world is blowing up on them. And it's been tough on them anyway. I mean, Hubert's not really playing Hall of Fame coaching. He's not in line to be the fourth Carolina basketball coach to be in the Hall of Fame right now. And they thought with Belichick, which was always, from the get-go, Henry, it was a weird deal.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, right now, and I don't know what happened, I know that Bubba wanted the Tulane coach first, and then he went to Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith would have probably been a great choice, but you know who he is.
Refresh my memory.
He's Fred Smith's son, the FedEx guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was a tight end for I think either Bush.
Man, they should have hired him because Fred Smith, the FedEx owner, he'll pour billions into your program. He's done it. He's done it to Memphis.
Yeah. But Arthur Smith is now the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, and before that, he was, I think, for 2 or 3 years, he was the head coach of the Falcons.
Yeah.
But he turned it down apparently, and I don't know the inside story of that, but he would have been a good choice, being a Carolina guy and having NFL experience and stuff. The whole idea with Belichick, he doesn't need this job. I mean, you think, well, you turned down $10 million. He doesn't need money.
No.
He's never been a popular guy.
Look, he took this job because he wanted to get back to the NFL. He's trying to get Schuler's record in the NFL, and nobody in the NFL wanted him. And so he took this job hoping to be successful, and then somebody would come back and hire him in the NFL. But now the NFL owners are looking at him and going, he's crazy.
We don't want her. We don't want her to inherit her too. You know, I'm not a Belichick fan or an opponent. He's got his 6 rings thanks to Tom Brady. But before Tom Brady and the Patriots, he was not a big success with the Cleveland Browns. And when Brady leaves, he doesn't do well.
Look what happened when Brady left. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so it's not like he can take yours and beat his, like Bum Phillips said about Don Shula.
Well, everybody's talking about what a football god he is, but I mean he never has won without Tom Brady. I mean that's a fact.
All right, so that was Henry and the great Bob Lee from Bob Lee Says on there. And Bob Lee has toiled away in Chapel Hill for a number of years. He's from Kinston originally, had some health issues, but he's doing better now. You know, listening to that back again, Pilk, the thing that stands out to me is the NFL now, probably Belichick may have sealed his fate with going to the NFL. Because it's back to the Shamir Sanders thing. It's the distraction part of all this. Nobody wants the distraction.
I think so. You don't want extra stuff around your program. I mean, Chris, what are your thoughts on this whole – I mean, are you guys getting Hard Knocks at Carolina? I mean, are they going to bring all this NFL drama that's already there into the collegiate realm too?
That's what I've heard around, like when he first got hired, and then they couldn't find an NFL team for the Hard Knocks, so now they kind of took it to UNC. So in the fall, you will see UNC on Hard Knocks.
Crazy.
Yeah, NFL clearly doesn't want it. Why do no teams want to do it? Because it's an extra distraction.
So, speaking of Shamir Sanders, I watched this as it happened in real time. Mel Kiper have his meltdown.
Got a guy up there. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper, in a way?
Look at did you cut that up for Pilk probably? Because Pilk, I don't know if Pilk's that creative to do a drop. It's pretty good.
I
though,
did.
Pilk.
I queued it up on YouTube.
There you go, buddy. Good job for you. Anyway, Jason Whitlock now does stuff for Outkick. I think he's done some stuff for the Blaze. He's kind of turned a little more culture observer than sports columnist, although sports does intersect in that, and he talks politics. He kind of nailed the Kiper thing on the head, and this is just a beautiful clip. Hit it, Pilk.
The worldwide leader in sports, with no one willing to effectively and appropriately and aggressively stand up to Mel Kiper and tell the truth. And I know Reese Davis did a nice job doing the best that he could. But if you're going to let Mel Kiper on your airwaves to shill for Deion Sanders and Shedeur in this way, they needed someone on the air that would be like, hey, Mel, the NFL, They've been screwing up quarterback drafts for 50 years? Mel, you're the guy that compared Jamarcus Russell to John Elway. Mel, you're the guy that said you would retire if Jimmy Clausen wasn't an NFL star within 8 years. You're the guy that was super high on Achilles Smith. You're the guy that had 4 other quarterbacks ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes. It seems like everybody, including Mel Kiper, have been screwing up quarterback evaluations forever. But they let Mel make a fool of themselves and all of ESPN for 3 straight days.
I don't know what's going to happen, but my guess is I don't think Mel Kiper will be. I don't know anything about his contract, so if there's a way to wriggle out of it, they'll be out of it by the time the next draft comes around. Because, I mean, he did act a fool. Now, as far as him not getting stuff, it's the same thing with Lenardi. I mean, Lenardi gets the majority of it right, but Lenardi doesn't get it all. I mean, he had like sort of the – they did a ranking of all the projection stuff year before this past tournament, and Lenardi was in the middle, but he was in the bottom middle. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Lenardi is part of the hype machine that is the worldwide leader. So he's the guy everybody turns to. We get Jerry Palm, and Jerry's actually got a higher percentage than Joe based on the historical data.
Yeah, he does.
And so that's why we like getting Jerry on. Our guy Patrick Stevens, we didn't have him on this year, but Patrick usually gets a higher percentage than Lo. But those guys aren't with the worldwide leader and split screen on every March broadcast that goes on.
Yeah, look, Mel Kiper is just there for the drama, just so we can hear him say,
Todd.
But
That's what he's there
Bill
for.
came prepared today. I think you did all this work, Chris, is what I think. But no, you're right. And so, but and look, it's one thing if they're wrong. I mean, Kiper's got things right the majority of the time. There is a track record there. And, as far as performance goes, he's a performer. But he acted like a petulant child all weekend.
It was rough.
And that's not a good look. That is not a good look. And Whitlock nailed it there. By the way, how's that Jimmy Clausen thing working out in Carolina, Bill?
I totally forgot he even started a game.
Yes, it's hard to believe that he was a Panther once upon a time. All right, thanks to Blake Harrell for being with us today. Intern Chris, good to see you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you, buddy.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
me.
all your hard work. Pilk, good work. And we'll see everybody tomorrow. Joe Giglio on the Belichick stuff and Gabby Sartori on ECU lacrosse. They'll play tomorrow in the conference tournament. Have a great week. Rest of your evening, everybody.